I'm going to show you the important step of making contact sheets. For me, contact sheets are a real important part of my process. I love making contact sheets. First off, they tell me what the photograph looks like. I can see if it's sharp by looking at it on the negative, but oftentimes you can't tell what the tones of the photograph are like. A contact sheet is the first step in producing a really good print. Making a contact sheet or printing a contact sheet gives you the ability to review your images before you start making expensive prints or work prints in the darkroom. They can tell you the tonal range, and one of the things that I really like about contact sheets is I print all my contact sheets very flat, which not a lot of contrast. I don't try to make perfect prints when I print contact sheets. I try to make very flat prints, and then that gives me an idea of, do I make it contrastier? Do I make it less contrasty? Which way do I go in the printing process? Should I print the print darker, or should the print be lighter? All of these clues will be here in the contact sheet when you do them. I will find after I make contact sheets, I end up spending a lot of time with my contact sheets. I'll take them in my bedroom, I'll take them in my office, I'll live with them a bit, and I'll just see how the photographs resonate with me. And it's great to get a China marker and mark them up so that you have selected a photograph and which one you might do, if you're gonna crop them at all. It's just a tactile feeling that contact sheets provide. I know a lot of people can read their negatives on a light table really quickly, but I think in the end, this will save you time and money from printing photographs that you might not want to print if you didn't see them first on a contact sheet. In the end, I love making contact sheets because I keep them and I'll go back through my contact sheets. Some contact sheets I'm going back 20 years ago, and I'll pull them out and I'll take a look and I'll remember that's how I made a print, or perhaps I might go a new way of printing. So for me, they're a valuable resource. The other thing that I'll do sometimes is, if I don't make work prints, I can cut these contact sheets up and I can use these little contact sheets on the floor for little bits of layout and see how to sequence my work. Making contact sheets is a critical part of the process. So let's go in the darkroom. They're very easy to make. I'm going to take you through the steps of how I make contact sheets and what I do with them after. Back in my little darkroom here, we've developed our film. The last episode I did was showing you how to develop sheet film. So I've sleeved my film, and now I'm going to show you how to make contact sheets. Making contact sheets is very easy in the darkroom. You only need a few things. You obviously need an enlarger with a lens and a light source, an enlarger timer. You need your chemicals. You need your developer, a stop bath, a fix. I use a little Kodak manual wind timer to show me the time. You need some darkroom tongs, and all my tongs and all my trays, as you can see, they are all labeled with developer, stop, fix. I don't like mixing things up at all. My trays, you need 3 trays you need for developer, stop, fix, and then you can work out of paper right out of the box of paper, but I like to use an actual paper safe, and it's a lot more easy and efficient to get paper in and out, and you can pick these things up for very cheap these days. The last thing that you're going to need is a piece of glass. I went out to a glass store and I got them to cut me a specific piece of glass. This is probably about a 10 by 12 inch piece of glass. It's fairly heavy so that it'll pack down that negative and hold it flat and make it sharp. And I got them to bevel the edges so that it won't cut me or chip, because that's one of the things you have to watch when you just take a glass out of a piece of frame or something. It can be quite sharp and cut you. The other thing I need is I have actually 2 safe lights going here. Although I usually only work with one, I'm using 2 and shining one right on my chemicals so that I can film it and I can show you the process and how it actually works. But I only use one safe light so that it doesn't give me too much light and overexpose the paper and cause a shift in my exposure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up some chemistry quick. I'm going to mix up the developer, stop bath, and fix. And you can see the ratios on each one, on the ratio that you should use for each one. So I'm gonna mix up some chemistry real quick, and I'm gonna take you through the process of how I make a contact sheet. On the left side of my enlarger, I have my paper safe and my negatives and my timer. I consider that the dry side. And then here's my easel. And then on the right-hand side, you can see is my chemicals. And I consider that the wet side. And I try to keep those two separate so that they don't get contaminated and you don't get chemical splashes on your negatives or on your paper safe. The first thing you do is you get a piece of paper out of your paper safe and you lay it underneath your negatives. You take your piece of glass and you put it on top so that it sandwiches it dry. Now the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to do a test. My enlarging lens is set to f5.6 and I'm going to set my timer to 5-second intervals. And so I have a piece of cardboard and I'm going to cover the majority of the piece of paper up, about 3/4 of the piece of paper up. I'm going to do 4 exposures. Each exposure is going to be 5 seconds. So you do your first exposure here at 5 seconds. You move your cardboard, you do the second exposure at 5 seconds, you do your third exposure at 5 seconds, and then you do your last exposure at 5 seconds. From there you take it and you put it into the developer. So when you slide the paper into the developer, that's when you start your timer. You want to develop it for 1 minute. And you want to gently agitate it and rock the tray back and forth. After a minute, you pull it out, you put it into the stop bath. I only leave it in the stop bath for maybe 15 or 30 seconds. I pull it out and then I put it into my fixer and it fixes for 1 minute, and after a minute, then you can wash it. From there, you will have your test sheet. After I wash my contact sheet for a quick minute, then I pull it out of the water and then I can judge and see where the proper exposure is going to be. So you can see it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 seconds for these negatives that it would make a proper exposure. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to expose this contact sheet for 15 seconds at f5.6 at a grade of f2. And now we have our contact sheet. We have our final thing. This helps me so much more to envision the final photograph. I can look through this and I can judge on contrast, and you can really get a sense of what you're shooting. This looks kind of interesting. I'm gonna print this photo up here. I think this could be kind of interesting as well. And again, one of the reasons why I do this flat like this is I can see now that, you know, I want more contrast in the sky here. I want to make sure I burn this down. And I want this to go much blacker and this to go a lot whiter. So making contact sheets really helps me envision the final print. As you can see, making contact sheets is an important part of my workflow. Thanks for coming along on this episode. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time. Cheers.